Across the galaxy, survival academies trained young aliens for every known danger: black holes, plasma storms, predator moons, even rogue AIs. Students memorized thousands of threat profiles. But one chapter was always sealed, marked in red. Humans. No claws. No venom. No natural armor. Yet every instructor paused before teaching that lesson. At the Zorvax Galactic Survival Academy, a young alien cadet raised his tentacle. "Sir," he asked, "why are humans classified as Category Omega threat?" The instructor activated a hologram. It showed a human ship, old, damaged, clearly outmatched, surrounded by enemy fleets. Any rational species would retreat. The human ship didn't. Instead, it accelerated. "Humans do not calculate survival the way we do," the instructor said quietly. "They calculate meaning." The hologram shifted. Humans were fighting a war they could not win. Their technology was inferior. Their numbers were smaller. Yet they kept advancing, repairing ships with scrap, turning civilian tools into weapons, using their own bodies as shields for allies they had met only hours before. "They fight when logic says stop," the instructor continued. "They adapt faster under fear. Pain makes them stubborn. Loss makes them dangerous." Another scene appeared, a human colony destroyed. Instead of surrender, humans rebuilt, stronger, angrier, smarter. Within decades, they surpassed the very species that attacked them. "They are not born predators," the instructor said. "They choose to become monsters when cornered." The classroom was silent. "So remember," he concluded, shutting down the hologram. "If you ever see a human smiling in a hopeless situation, run. It means they've already decided to win, no matter the cost." Weeks after the lecture, the Zorvax Academy received an emergency transmission. A survival simulation had gone wrong. For the first time in galactic history, a human exchange cadet had been allowed into the academy, unarmed, unenhanced, and supposedly harmless. The test was simple: a controlled disaster zone with limited oxygen, hostile terrain, and no rescue for 72 hours. Most species failed within 12. The human was still alive after 50. Instructors watched in disbelief as the human rationed air by slowing his heartbeat, something no other species attempted. When his shelter collapsed, he didn't panic. He laughed, rebuilt it from broken panels, and used his own body heat to keep a weaker alien cadet alive through the night. "He should have conserved resources," one instructor muttered. "He did," another replied. "He conserved people." On day 3, predators breached the zone, creatures designed to trigger fear responses. The alien cadets froze. Fear paralyzed them. The human didn't freeze. He stood up. With no weapons, he made noise. Loud. Angry. He threw debris, charged forward, and screamed, not in terror, but defiance. The predators retreated, confused by a creature that refused to act like prey. That was when the Academy understood the mistake. Humans don't remove fear. They use it. When the simulation ended, the human collapsed from exhaustion. Medical scans revealed broken bones, internal damage, and extreme stress levels. Yet his final recorded words stunned the council. "Did everyone else make it?" The report was sealed immediately. From that day on, Galactic Survival Academies updated their manuals. Never simulate humans. Never corner humans. And never assume they are weak. Because survival, to them, is personal. The sealed report was never meant to leak. But it did. Within months, survival academies across the galaxy began receiving the same warning update: classified, urgent, and terrifying. Human behavior is not anomalous. It is consistent. Then the real problem began. A border world fell under attack by the Krelith swarm, an enemy so ruthless that entire species had gone extinct trying to stop them. Standard protocol was clear: evacuate, retreat, and preserve civilization. A human rescue fleet arrived late. Too late to evacuate. The Academies expected a massacre. Instead, sensors recorded something unprecedented. The humans didn't form defensive lines. They split into small, chaotic groups. They used damaged ships as decoys. They lured the swarm into asteroid fields, detonated engines manually, and boarded enemy vessels knowing there was no return flight. Alien commanders watched in horror. "Why aren't they retreating?" one asked. A survival instructor answered quietly. "Because retreat would mean leaving someone behind." When the battle ended, the swarm was gone. So were most of the humans. The survivors refused medals. Refused recognition. They rebuilt the border world and left behind a simple message carved into metal. Still standing. That message spread faster than fear. Soon, when pirates intercepted ships, they checked cargo logs for one thing: human life signs. If detected, attacks were aborted. Academies changed their training again. New drills were added, not to fight humans, but to understand them. Final conclusion of the updated manual. Humans are not the strongest. They are not the fastest. They are not the smartest. But they will endure pain, loss, and impossible odds for one reason no academy can teach. They refuse to quit. Especially when someone else depends on them. And that terrifies the galaxy. Fear spreads fast in the galaxy. But something else began spreading faster. Respect. After the Krelith swarm's defeat, survival academies noticed a strange change in their cadets. Training simulations were failing, not because students were weaker, but because they hesitated. Whenever a scenario became hopeless, one question echoed through command rooms. What would humans do? On the neutral world of LRF-9, a galactic council finally invited human representatives, not as soldiers, not as heroes, but as a case study. The academies wanted answers. A senior instructor asked the human delegate, "Why do your kind continue fighting when survival probability reaches 0? The human didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Because the math stops mattering when someone's counting on you." That sentence rewrote entire textbooks. Soon, mixed species task forces began training with humans instead of avoiding them. Cadets learned uncomfortable lessons: how humans stay calm while bleeding, how they joke under pressure, how they turn despair into momentum. But the most terrifying discovery came last. Humans weren't fearless. Scans confirmed it: elevated stress, panic signals, overwhelming fear responses. Humans felt fear more intensely than most species. They just refused to let it decide their actions. A classified academy addendum was issued. Humans do not dominate through strength. They dominate through choice. They choose to stand. They choose to protect. They choose to fight, long after hope dies. By the end of the cycle, survival academies removed one phrase from their doctrine. Self-preservation is the highest law. It was replaced with a new warning, written in human language and never translated. If you want to survive alone, run. If you want to survive together, stand with humans. And for the first time in galactic history, fear of humans transformed into something far more dangerous. Trust. Years later, the lesson on humans was no longer hidden. It was taught on the first day. New cadets sat silently as a simple sentence appeared on every academy screen across the galaxy. This lesson is not about defeating humans. It is about surviving a universe with them. The final recorded incident came during the collapse of the Orion Gate. A cosmic rupture threatened to erase 12 inhabited systems. Calculations showed only one option: seal the gate permanently, from the inside. No species volunteered. Humans did. Not because they were ordered. Not because they were immune. But because evacuation was incomplete. A human engineer recorded a final message, broadcast to every academy. We're scared. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. But fear doesn't decide who we are. What we do next does. They held the gate long enough. Millions lived. The humans did not. In the aftermath, survival academies made their final update, never revised again. Humans were removed from threat rankings. They were placed in a category of their own. Constant variable. Unpredictable. Emotional. Fragile. And yet, the last ones to fall. In simulations, cadets now failed if they abandoned allies, even when logic demanded it. They were taught endurance, sacrifice, and something no algorithm could measure. Responsibility. Statues were built near academies, not of warriors, but of humans standing side by side with other species, damaged suits, empty weapons, unbroken posture. The inscription beneath every statue was identical. They were afraid. They stood anyway. That is why humans terrify galactic survival academies. Because they prove survival isn't about living the longest. It's about deciding what is worth standing for. When survival is no longer guaranteed,